I got a call from Stan, and I asked him, how's it going to go tonight? And he said, what? One more time? This is RamView.
It's hot out there, so let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the November 11th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Bench the app. Don't take a zero. Don't get a goose egg because you left a non-starting player in your fantasy lineup. Get Bench the app today and make that a thing of the past. All right. Yes. We do believe. We have to believe. We want to see. We want to see a big game. This is a big game for the Rams tonight. It gets bigger by the moment because the margin of error for the Rams keeps shrinking as long as the Cardinals keep winning. They've won, 4 in a row? They're 6-4. They've beaten teams they should have lost to, right? They should have lost in Miami a couple of weeks ago. They should have lost to the Bolts, right? The Jets, from what they were supposed to be this season, should have beaten them. And right now they're 6-4. And so the margin for error, you got to expect the Rams aren't going to run the table and win 9 in a row or finish off the season winning their last 9 games. You got tough ones coming against Philly, against Buffalo, and even this Miami game where the Dolphins are 2-6, they are somewhat still dangerous. And so that little one loss shouldn't knock the Rams out. But here's the problem is the Taxkins are 7-3. They're not a division in first place anymore. The Rams are playing the Eagles. The Eagles are in first place. The Rams have already lost to the Packers. The Packers are 6-3. This road to the playoffs cannot be wild card. And so it's going to come down to gobbling up and banking wins. And they've got to win tonight. They have to. You can't fall 2 games behind the Cardinals with the 49ers in between. That really puts them in a tough spot. It doesn't mean it's over. But this game, while it's hardly a layup, this is a game you have to win. This is like if you really got expectation about the postseason, you can't lose to the Dolphins. Like you can't lose to the Saints. Like you can't lose to the Jets in another month or so. You got to win this game, and things are trending well right now for the Rams going forward. So, yeah, I'm Joe Tarosian. Got on early today. I put out a little short one earlier to say we were going to be on at 1. I didn't want to bump into the game and then have to wait until Wednesday before doing another show. So we're going to do a somewhat abbreviated show here, maybe about a half hour long, and then we're going to come back tomorrow with a full show to break down what we see tonight. And hopefully what we see is blood, right? We want to see the Rams come out and just smack them. The Rams defense is risen to a place where it has the capability to beat up this team, and we just hope they do it. The buzz has also changed a little bit now with news coming out this weekend that Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson are returning. I had it written down apparent return because I heard it talked about. I just hadn't seen any movement, but the Rams have officially activated those guys. McVay in his press conference yesterday said you will see those guys play. And so that's pretty exciting for the Rams. That means they've weathered the storm. The nightmare feels like it's over. We're 4-4, and now we got a good chunk of our offensive line back. Of course, Havenstein's out tonight, but those interior guys, Avila and Jonah Jackson, are back, along with Dotson there and Alaric Jackson. For Alaric Jackson, for an undrafted free agent out of Iowa, Alaric Jackson's been playing lights out. The question tonight is it Noteboom or McClendon? I think a lot of people are making Noteboom, and I'm okay with that because we're paying Noteboom. But I think McClendon has been a little more present, obviously, and he doesn't play bad at right tackle. We know he's not a left tackle, but he doesn't play poorly at right tackle. But with Avila and Jackson back, here's the other good news for the Rams. Even though Havenstein's out, you got either Noteboom or McClendon, but now you have Bo Limmer and Justin Diedick as great backups with a lot of snaps under their belt, right? So you got depth on this offensive line suddenly. You know who doesn't have depth on their offensive line? The Dolphins don't have depth on their offensive line, and that's a huge key tonight. Is Austin Jackson, their right tackle, number one pick out of USC several years ago, who's never really panned out. He's not playing tonight, so they're going with somebody else. I'm not worried about the Rams scoring against the Dolphins. Their front seven has not been very good. They got Calais Campbell. They got Jalen Ramsey. Is it Kendall Fuller at the other cornerback spot? Their safeties got some age on them, and Marcus May and Poyer. This defense is ripe to be beaten up by the Rams, right? This defense is ripe to be beaten up. My concern is about the Dolphins scoring on us. Now, Tyreek Hill's supposed to be a game-time decision. That's good news. And Austin Jackson is out. Here's where it gets tricky, is that Tua is really well known for getting that ball out of his hands. Now, without Tyreek Hill here, that puts the attention on Jalen Waddle. That's good news. They still have Devin Achane in the backfield. That's tricky. He's a good ball player, right? He can go to the house. I got him on my fantasy team. But here's where we get excited about the Rams. Jared Verse has performed against everybody. The left tackle for the Dolphins is Terron Armstead. He's playing really well. I think PFF has him rated number one. But we saw what Jared Verse did to Charles Cross last week in Seattle. And PFF rated Charles Cross the sixth best left tackle or tackle going into last week's game. And if the Rams could use their front four, right? If they could use their front five, if they could use that pass rush, right? Verse, Byron Young, Fisk, Kobe Turner, and yes, Michael Hoyt, they could force Tua off his pace, right? Force him out of rhythm. And if Tua is out of rhythm, this game goes to the Rams. This game will go to the Rams, which you got to disrupt him because he gets rid of the ball so stinking fast. I predicted on Friday, I had the Rams 34-20. I'm very optimistic about tonight. I'm optimistic because I think the Rams could win this game by 3 touchdowns. I think they could win 41-21. This is going to be a good acid test. If Hill plays or not, it's going to be a good acid test for Chris Shula's defense and for the progression this team has made. Okay, so we'll break this out here a little bit more. We'll look at the season. Oh, questions rolled in. Thanks, guys. I'll get to them here in a second. To make room for those returning players, the Rams have waived Logan Bruss, third-round pick back in 2022. After the ascension of Justin Diedick, this is not a surprise. I think we all saw it coming. Hopefully, I'd like to see him clear waivers and end up on the practice squad. Between missing his whole rookie year with that devastating knee injury and being thrust back into things this year, I like him. You say Wisconsin offensive lineman, I want him on the roster, right? And so hopefully maybe he gets another year. Maybe he gets to bounce back. I don't think anyone's going to claim him. I can't see anybody claiming him right now. But credit to the Rams for scouting, signing, not even drafting Justin Diedick, who helped us get to this 4-4 part of the season. The team also activated Jonah Williams. So his journey, from here to Minnesota to back here to practice squad to elevation to getting cut, they've activated Jonah Williams with Neville Gallimore still out. All right. I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 21 years, and I get to do RamView now thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and, of course, Bench the App. And if you're tired of losing fantasy games because you forgot to check your lineup with Bench the App, that's a thing of the past. Benched is the only app that ensures you never leave a non-starting player in your lineup. Don't miss out on crucial points, and don't be the one who forgot to bench a player on game day. Win your league, keep your pride, talk your trash, and let Bench the App handle the rest. Download Bench the App today and dominate your fantasy season. And if you can, be sure to check out my books on Amazon. I've released Game Day in the RamCave about a month ago, selling really well. If you purchased it, let me know. I'd love to get a review from you on Amazon. But thank you. My books help me, along with our advertisers, keep my day job is that I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we're right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual, all across social media. Okay, some questions have rolled in at 1 p.m. Tim Burns, hey, Joe T, what does our O-line look like tonight? Man, we just talked about that, right? We just talked about that. Havenstein's the only one out. Noteboom has starting experience. And Warren McClendon, I think we saw him come in last week, play some solid ball after Havenstein went out. Warren McClendon has gotten snaps this year. So I think we're in really good shape. The Dolphins do not have a pass rush. They just don't. They don't have a great pass rush. So the Rams have an opportunity here. If they can't get to Stafford, I talked about not getting to Tua, but if they can't get to Stafford, it's church, right? It's church. So Steve Ramirez, starters are all back, but hated to see Bruss go. We talked about that. Yeah, I did too. I didn't want to see Bruss go, but his number came up, right? His number came up. Let's see here. Tim Burns, Houston's helmet game is on fire. Metallic with red reminds me of University of Oregon's cool unis. See, Mr. Burns, I think you and I disagree a little bit there. I think Oregon over the years has just overdone it. It's just too much. When I was looking at those Houston helmets yesterday, yeah, they were pretty cool, but just they got that candy apple red like it should be on a Corvette. And you come out in those unis, though, you got to hold on to your, what was that, 23-7 lead? You got to hold on to that. What a great game by the Lions last night. We'll talk about that. Tim Burns, Caleb's last three quarterback ratings, 13.6, 19.3, 33.8. Holds on the ball forever. But isn't this play selection on the coach too? He doesn't just all of a sudden suck, right? Everything about the Bears sucks right now, right? You know, their OC is Shane Waldron. He's actually someone who's out of the Rams family. Went up to Seattle to coordinate their passing game, became the OC there, and now he's the OC in Chicago. But nothing is right there. They got him weapons. The offensive line has deteriorated, and I don't know about Caleb Williams. Sometimes I'm just what I'm more curious about. He's starting to say he's saying the right things. I want to make sure. I don't like his body language sometimes. You want to hope that he's holding on to the locker room, that everyone's still believing in him. I can't believe the Bears aren't thinking about making a coaching change, though, at least at the end of the year. But according to the news breaks, they're not. Tim Burns, Rams 38, Dolphins 28. Okay, all right. I'd like to see the Rams not give up 4 touchdowns, but I'll take the win, right? Tim Burns, Saquon Barkley has in 9 games what took 14 last season, on pace for 2,200 scrimmage yards in an amazing turnaround. Yeah, Saquon Barkley's been better than I thought. I'm not a Saquon Barkley fan, but you know what I liked yesterday is when the Eagles just demolished the Cowboys. Let me repeat that again. When the Eagles demolished the Cowboys, one more time, when the Eagles demolished the Cowboys, yes, Saquon Barkley only had 14 touches yesterday. He carried the ball 14 times. I think he only caught 1 pass, and that's smart. That's just really smart. You know, lighten the load on him in the games you don't need. You know, sometimes we watch these games. You know, we watched the Rams play Arizona, and they're getting blown out earlier this year. It's the 4th quarter. And I think some of us were going crazy as all these new injuries were piling up. Is why does McVay still have Stafford in the game, right? But good for the Eagles on limiting Saquon's touches against a lousy team like the Cowboys. There we go. Tim Burns, your new book is a funny journey, very familiar situations. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Your check's in the mail, brother. Thank you so much for that. He's speaking of game day in the RamCave. Steve Ramirez, need decent games from Stafford, Puka, and the Rams D tonight. I'm 20 points down going into tonight, and my opponent is done. Oh, he needs the fantasy. I need Kyron Williams to have 5 touchdowns and 150 yards rushing to win one of my games tonight. I don't think I'm going to get that, though. All right, guys, just keep throwing your questions in. I'm going to take a look around the NFL and look at the games yesterday. And like I said, this will be a shorter show. I just wanted to get it in before we get to the Ram game later on. And then we're going to have a special show tomorrow. We're going to be on the air tomorrow. Also, if you haven't done it yet, be sure to check us out on Spotify. They're trying to make a footprint back in that arena. It's very slow, but check it out. Okay, this week, currently, I'm 9-4. I'm hoping after the Rams win tonight, I'll be 10-4. I'm currently 90-61 on the season. A Rams win would put me in double digits for the 5th straight week. So we took the Ravens over the Bengals in the Jeff Blake Bowl. Baltimore won that game 35-34. We talked about that on Friday. In the Kerry Collins Bowl, I took the Giants over the Panthers, and Carolina won 20-17. I'm still not sold on Bryce Young, but it seems like everybody's trying to reach for something really good, and I understand that. And I hope the Panthers and the whole NFC is all in on Bryce Young, because maybe they'll give him a contract and stunt their growth for longer and keep the Rams window open that much longer. Patriots and Bears in the Carl Garrett Bowl. I took the Bears, right? New England won 19-3. This party has not lasted long in Chi-Town, right? And Ryan Poles is the GM, and he's put out word that Eberflus isn't going anywhere. But how do you hang on to this? This isn't even giving you those signs of hope, right? You could lose sometimes in this league, and was it at the end of 2022, you're watching the Lions and they're going on that run, and you could see, oh man, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but you could see them getting better. And man, the Bears have just hit a wall the last 3 weeks. Bills at Colts. Bills won. They're 8-2. Colts are 4-5 in the Will Wolford Bowl. Buffalo won 30-20. But Buffalo's looking mortal right now. They got injuries and everything. I think they're going to come up short again in January. That's just how I'm seeing it. Vikings, Jaguars, the Toby Gerhart Bowl. Vikings won 12-7, but it feels like the Sam Darnold era is already over, doesn't it? Right? They're just that offense everyone was talking about, right? It's not happening, right? Who you are, everyone discovers who you are at some point. Broncos and Chiefs, the Neil Smith Bowl, we took KC. KC won 16-14 on that blocked kick. We said the Chiefs were cruising for a bruising. And here's the thing. I like the Chiefs. I don't think I'd ever pick against the Chiefs, but they look vulnerable in January. They're a 9-0 team, but at some point you get the feeling someone's going to get them. Falcons Saints, the Billy Joe Tolliver Bowl. New Orleans won at home 20-17. And all I could think of after watching that game and picking the Falcons is God bless Tecumseh Sherman for burning Atlanta down. I am so disgusted with the Falcons. Every time I think the Falcons are going to do something, they do nothing, right? I'm done with the Falcons. Done. 49ers at Buccaneers. 49ers won the Steve Spurrier Bowl thanks to a last-second field goal. Here's the thing about the 49ers. I don't think they're very good. And when this all crashes and burns, the KBM is going to tell you it's Brock Purdy's fault. They're going to tell you Brock Purdy couldn't raise them above the fracas here. But in truth, this team is old. This team is hanging on by a thread. And the Buccaneers are 4-6. They've lost everybody. And Baker Mayfield is playing his butt off. And if they just had a little bit of help, the Buccaneers would have won that game. Buccaneers had a little bit of help, they'd have beaten the Chiefs. And they'd be 6-4 and be having a different story right now. They got to be happy, but so frustrated in Tampa, right? They're 4-6, and they got reason to believe in Tampa Bay. Bears are 4-5, and it's like NEM, it's a twister, right? Steelers at the Taxkins in the Antoine Randall L Bowl, and the Steelers pulled it out 28-27. I'm going to say it right now. I don't know if Steeler fan Rob is online to hear it, but I'm going to say it right now. Steelers-Ravens next week, to me, feels like a likely AFC Championship preview, because I'm looking at the Bills, I'm looking at the Chiefs, and then I'm looking at the Steelers, and I'm thinking, oh, man, the Steelers, right? The Steelers. I expected more out of the Steelers last year, but the Steelers, they could say injury-free, keep Wilson upright. The Ravens don't have a defense. I'm really curious. And how quick was it? How elated was Mike Williams to be liberated from the Jets, right? He could have been part of that nightmare in Arizona yesterday, and instead he's catching the game winner from Russell Wilson for the, 7-2 Steelers? Man, life's good for Mike Williams right now. So, yeah, good for the Steelers. Titans at Chargers. The Charlie Joyner Bowl, Bolts won 27-17. Didn't feel like it was that close. Chargers aren't great, but they keep banking wins, and they're going to make the playoffs. They're next year's team. Jets Cardinals, the Johnny Johnson Bowl. I took Arizona, even though I needed the Jets and Aaron Rodgers to do us a solid, and they couldn't do us a solid. They couldn't do us a stinking solid. So I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be measured. I'd always had a soft heart towards the Jets over the years, but these 2024 Jets, for all I care, can rot and lie stinking in the earth, because every time the Cardinals pick off a victory, it makes the Rams' margin of error that much slimmer. And I refuse to believe the Cardinals are for real. I refuse to believe it. Eagles 7-2 beat the Cowboys in the Herschel Walker Bowl 34-6. Eagles aren't great. Maybe they're going to be good. I think we'll find out soon. But what I'm wondering about is the Cowboys, as they continue to just rot. They're 3-6 now, and now it looks like Dak Prescott's done for the year. Would they tank it and then draft a Shedeur Sanders, even though they've given Dak all that dough? They might want to think about it. Sanders has played himself into that conversation. And then last night, Lions-Texans, the Sean Cody Bowl. Detroit won 26-23. What a great win, right? Just a great statement on the road. With that said, I thought Jared Goff, I'd like to know what he was thinking on some of those picks. That one he threw deep, and he had Jamar Gibbs just flaring out with all kinds of real estate in front of him. You see Jamar Gibbs put his hand to his helmet like, oh, man, dude, you don't see me. Yeah, I wish people, I'm hoping people are getting over it on Dan Campbell and finally giving him his credit. I like Detroit. I do. You know, if the Rams don't win the Super Bowl, I hope it's Detroit. I think it would be great. I want Dan Campbell validated, because to change culture, and I want Brad Holmes validated, because to change culture in a franchise like Detroit, which has been at best mediocre my entire life. When I was growing up, what are the Vikings going to be? Oh, the Vikings are going to be 10-4. What are the Lions going to be? The Lions are going to be 7-7, 6-7-1, 8-5-1. Then, someone gets hurt. Danielson goes down in 79. They're 2-14. They get Billy Sims in 1980. Then they're 8-8 again, maybe 9-7. They sneak into a playoff and a strike year. Scott Mitchell comes in the 90s. They have a couple of soft, good years there with Barry Sanders in the backfield. They haven't won a playoff game since 91. All that stuff. That was just the history of the Lions, right? And they were mediocre for most of my youth. And then as I got into my middle age, they got worse, right? They got worse, 0-16, and they just looked awful. And how hard is it to change that culture? And Dan Campbell's changed that culture. And everyone tried to call him a Neanderthal. And everyone tried to call him this and try to call him that. You know what? Good head coach, man. Changed it. Changed everything. So Rams and Dolphins tonight, the Bob Brzezinski Bowl, and I'm going with the Rams. I got the Rams 34-20. I got them possibly 41-20. I think there's potential here for a big score, but that's not to say the Rams can't be stung. If they can't get to Tua behind this current Tua offensive line in Miami, Rams are going to have problems tonight. They're going to have problems. And so, but I like the defense. I like where the defense is going. All right. I think we had some other questions roll in. Willie Bowen, I want to see Jordan Whittington get his first reception TD. I'll live with it. Willie's got the Rams 35-13. Okay. Tim Burns, Chief game was fixed. How does that block happen? Just good things happen to the Chiefs, right? Because Taylor was there, right? Taylor was there. Tim Burns, I went 8-5 yesterday. I still say that the Taxkins are scary. The Taxkins are scary. They are scary and stuff. So Tim Burns, Buffalo could lose 5 straight and be in first in the AFC East. How far they fall, Miami could be 2-7 by the time tonight's over. Patriots are 3-7. Jets are already 3-7. Yeah, I think it's up to Buffalo, though, man. Buffalo might want to win those games, because I'd want home games in January if I'm Buffalo. I want them coming to that refrigerator, that ice box up there. I like Buffalo. I have nothing bad to say about Buffalo. But right now, doesn't it feel like Steelers-Ravens? That's what it feels like to me, right? Rick 451, I don't want the Rams to struggle tonight. I want 47 points tonight. Me too. right? Someone asked me, Joe, oh, it was a good game. If the Rams won, like the game against Frisco we won earlier this year. Oh, it was a good game. I walk in the house, my wife says, oh, it was a good game. I heard the Rams won. No, it's not a good game. Those aren't good games. A good game to me is just what you said there, Rick. Rams win 47-7. Rams win 47-0. That's a good game. I want to see good games like that. I don't want to be thrilled. I want to be thrilled like I was last night, where those Jake Bates field goals go to scrape inside the post. That's fun because I don't care in the end. But Ram games, I need 47-0 blowouts. That's what I need, right? I think we're thinking alike, Rick. Brian B., Rams need to take the lead tonight, never play from behind. Going to be a good game, my friend. Right, Brian? A good game with us taking the lead and never looking back, right? That's what I want to see. Again, I think the defense is playing well. I know Roseboom's got a little neck thing, but I really like it with what they're doing with Jalen McCullough and the way they're working in Aquila, working in Kobe Durant, and just doing different things in the box there. Quentin Lake is the one I'm really excited about because I want to see what they're going to do at safety. I don't know if I feel comfortable with Cam Kitchens, but they're bringing Cam Curl down. But hopefully JJ gets back soon. He's the last big name on the IR. And if they can get John Johnson back and maybe he can hold down the back porch, then we've got freedom with Quentin Lake as well. So, yeah, I'm feeling really good about the game right now. Tim Burns is changing the subject. Update. Bronny has mad confidence. He's shooting 0.02% from three across Summer League, preseason, NBA, and G League. Willie Bowen, Bronny sucks. Tim Burns, I agree with Rick, 451. Steve Ramirez, how about them Bruins? I saw that game. Believe it or not, Saturday night. No, was that Friday night? What night? I was watching that game, and I thought, wow, two things there. I thought, I did not expect that from Deshaun Foster. And the second thing I was thinking was, wow, who would have thunk that UCLA would be with wins over Iowa and Nebraska, and SC can't even beat Minnesota, can't even beat Maryland. Good for UCLA. Good for you, Steve. Willie Bowen, LA needs to take a lead, then run up the score. All right. Tim Powers, if T. Hill is out and linebackers limit tight end, Jonnu Smith, that's who you're talking about, Rams will be in the driver's seat. I would be really upset if Jonnu Smith, who I think has had better, he's had a good career, but if he ate up the Rams tonight, I'd be really frustrated. And we know with a young defense, we do have those frustrating moments, right? We have those moments like, what are you doing, right? But we've seen it get tightened. We've seen it tighten up these last few weeks. We've seen it. And so I'm starting to believe, right? Hopefully when Byron Young gets a shot on Tua, he opens his arms up and wraps him and gives him a big fat hug, right? Instead of just trying to blast him in tomorrow. Verse can finish. And Tua's got some mobility, but he's not as athletic as Verse. And then you got the people coming up the middle and Fisk and Turner. And then again, don't forget Hoyt. Hoyt's the forgotten guy here that everyone's focused on those parts. And then Hoyt has just been terrific this year in his role. And so, and they're using the heavy safeties like Jalen McCullough to play that off-ball linebacker spot right now. So I really like what the Rams are doing. Darius Williams playing well. And so I do believe. Tim Burns, McCullough gets another interception, Joe T. If McCullough gets another interception tonight, I'm looking around my room, Mr. Burns, and I'm trying to think. I've got an old Rams teddy bear. No, I don't think you'd like that. How about a Kistler Law mug? If McCullough gets another interception, I'm going to send you, I got right here on my shelf, I got an extra Kistler mug, coffee mug, that's in Ram colors. Steeler fan Rob has one. If McCullough gets an interception tonight, Mr. Burns, I will send you a Kistler Law mug in Ram colors. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Tim Powers, send Tutu deep a few times to keep the Dolphins guessing. I think that's a strategy the Rams should employ every single week, right? When Tutu's out there and getting enough reps, if he doesn't get the catch deep, generally 2 out of 3 times he gets the pass interference call, right? I'm sad for Tutu because And I don't want to get rid of him. And he's obviously with the team for the rest of the year because there's no burners like him. But man, how do you find space for him when you've got Kupp, Nakua, and D-Rob all on the field, right? How do you do that? And now Jordan Whittington is back. That's just finding those snaps for Atwell is rough. It's really rough. I want him out there, but I don't know where they're going to find it. But I hope they do. Let's see here. Willie Bowen. Blake Corum should get his first rushing TD tonight. Yeah, I could see that. 5 minutes are left. Jalen McCullough gets an interception on a tip ball. McVay is benched his starters. Jimmy G's taking some snaps, handing the ball off. And then Blake Corum gets his first touchdown of the year. I'm all in. All in. Tim Burns. All hail Paul and you. Okay, we're in, Mr. Burns. We're in. I need something in return, though. Okay? I don't know what I get if McCullough doesn't get his 5th pick of the year. All right, let's look at a couple other things. Looking at coaches on the hot seat. Sorry, I didn't have my water handy. We know Robert Saleh and Dennis Allen have been fired. Gerard Mayo, Nick Sirianni, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, and Matt Eberflus were also on the list. Eberflus has to be the hottest guy there on terms of getting fired. Doug Peterson, he might survive the season, but he's going to be gone. Mike McCarthy has to be happy he's going, right? He has no contract for next year. And then Micah Parsons. Did you hear about Micah Parsons? He just kind of takes a cheap shot at his coach. I don't care if he's here or he goes anywhere he goes. He took a cheap shot at his head coach. I can't stand Micah Parsons, right? He's the Eric Karros of sack makers, right? And what I mean by that is when Eric Karros played for the Dodgers, he had like 5 or 6 consecutive seasons where he hit 20 home runs. But you can never remember an important home run. The modern version of that is Bryce Harper against the Mets. Everyone was talking about, are you happy Bryce Harper is not, in Washington? Well, he went to Philly. It didn't bother me. The guy that killed the Mets was Anthony Rendon, right? But Harper never hit a meaningful home run against the Mets. And it never seems like Micah Parsons makes a meaningful play when it really, really matters, right? If I'm Dallas, I'm in bed with Dak. Can't do anything about that. But I'm going to get a high pick. I'm going to trade down, and I'm going to trade Micah Parsons. I'm not going to give him a contract. He foolishly, what's his face, Jerry Jones, foolishly gave CeeDee Lamb that contract. What a disaster Dallas is shaping into, and I love it. And I don't mind giving them advice because they'll never listen to it. They wouldn't listen to Vince Lombardi if he came down and was telling them, hey, you need to do this, right? If Lombardi walked in to the Dallas complex and talked to Jerry Jones, he'd say, what the hell's going on out here? And they still wouldn't listen to him, right? They still wouldn't listen to him. And so Dallas, you are doomed, man. You are doomed. And Mike McCarthy is about to be liberated. Jared Mayo is going to survive the season. Nick Sirianni, he's going to survive the season as well. All right, let's look at those playoffs real quick. Look at the NFC division leaders. Lions 8-1, Eagles 7-2. The Rams get them in week 12. Falcons are 6-4. They suck. Can't stand the Falcons. And the Cardinals are 6-4. The Vikings also right now have the number 5 spot in the playoffs. They're 7-2, but they've got a loss to the Rams. The Texans now are 7-3, and the Packers with a win over the Rams, they were on bye this week. They're 6-3. The Rams, with a win tonight, will be in that 8th slot, which is not bad, but they'll be in that 8th slot if they win. Presently, the 49ers are 5-4. But if the Rams win, the Rams go to 5-4. And of course, by victory over the 49ers, we will be in the 8th slot, the first team to maybe move up into that wild card spot. But we'd still be a game behind the Packers, who have a win over us, 2 games behind the Texans and the Vikings. The Bears, there's no one really else. Bears are 4-5. Seahawks are 4-5. They're on bye. They're coming back this week. And then, of course, Tampa Bay, 4-6. Probably the best team that's going to miss the playoffs in the NFC. In the AFC, Chiefs are 9-0. Steelers are 8-2. Now, Bills are 8-2. Steelers are 7-2. And the Houston Texans are 6-4. Ravens are 7-3. Chargers are 6-3. Broncos are 5-5. This is starting to look really set because The Colts, I don't think they got Flacco fever anymore. I think they got Flacco flu, and they're struggling. The Bengals are 4-6. They're not a horrible team, but they're going to have to do a lot to get their stuff together between now and the end of the season. 4-6. Jets are 3-7. Patriots are 3-7. It's the cream is separating here in the playoff picture. All right, who else do we got here? Let's see. Samuel Ainsley, howdy, Joe. Are the Rams secondary going to let another wide receiver get over 100 yards? Again, Jackson Smith-Njigba last week had a career day. He showed why he was a number one, first-round pick in the draft. He wasn't number one overall, but a first-round pick in the draft. That was frustrating. Geno Smith made some throws. God bless Geno Smith. He made some throws. The other part was some of that yardage and those receivers last week. The Rams had those brain freezes, which they can't afford to do. But, the refs threw the flag, and Geno had the free plays, and they got fat off the Rams. And I guess that was some of the yelling that took place at halftime because they kind of scaled it back. And then some of the throws, the touchdown throw that Geno had was a perfect throw. The throw that he had over the top, I think that was at the Tyler Lockett, or was that the Jackson Smith-Njigba too? But that one that was looped over the top on 4th and forever, they just made plays there. You got Jalen Waddle, you got OBJ. OBJ would love to torch the Rams, right? But we know he's not the burner he was. He never really was much of a burner. Jalen Waddle's a burner. You throw in Tyreek Hill, who I got to believe, Monday Night Football, that wrist really has to be hurting because he's not going to get another spotlight, right? He's not going to get another spotlight this year. He makes them dangerous just with him being on the field. Reminds me of they talked about in the AFL championship game in 68, how Don Maynard really threw out his hamstring. I'm not going to say blew out his hamstring. Don Maynard, who eventually became the NFL's all-time pass catching leader for a brief time, he didn't catch a pass in the Super Bowl, but no one knew he was hurt. So they just kept running him out there, and he got a lot of attention from the Colts secondary in Super Bowl III. If Tyreek Hill can run, I'd ask him, dude, just go out there and just be a threat because they're going to have to account for you. Right. But I think the Rams secondary is improving. I do. And I think, again, the way that Dolphins offensive line is looking, the Rams could do some feasting tonight. They could do some feasting tonight. That's how I see it. And that would keep things down. All right. Let's see. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, you're on early today. Had to go on early because Rams play at 5. You guys, as much as I love you, you guys aren't going to watch me when the Rams are on, right? So I came on at 1. We will be live tomorrow at 5 o'clock, though. We are going to come on with the Tuesday show just because we want to be able to talk about this game. We don't want to wait until Wednesday. Let's see here. Let's see. Stafford should have 330 yards passing. Hey, again, Willie Bowen, from your lips to the football god's ears. May Stafford just eat him up. Payo Time from Canada. Hey, man, thank you for clicking on, like your show. I'm not sure how this game goes, but I'm prepared for it to come down to the wire. Really? Payo Time, if you're still here, give us a reason why. I think we put out our points that if everything stands the way it is right now, the Rams should win by a couple of touchdowns. I think 10 points at minimum. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what makes you worried for the Rams. Just let us know. Let's see. Tim Burns, good Pearsall story. Pearsall has recovered from being shot. Absolutely. Great story. Many blessings. Now I need a hammy strain. Okay, there you go. As long as it's in week 16? Is that when they play the Rams? Willie Bowen, what's up, Peo? It's great being an LA Rams fan now. Horns up. Okay. Steve Ramirez, did you see if the Rams win tonight, it would be the first time all Florida's NFL and major college teams went 0 for the weekend. Yeah, I saw that. I was disappointed Miami lost because I'm a Cam Ward fan, but they were cruising for a bruising, right? At some point, the magic was going to run out. I know they're not a great team, but I do like Cam Ward. Manuel Correa, what's up, my amigo Willie? Willie and Manny say hi to each other. Payo Time. Hey, Willie, and you know it. Manuel Correa, what's up, my amigo Tim? Okay, I'm glad I'm the new social media guy here. That's great. I think we got a lot of stuff in here right now. Let's see what we got. All right, let's look at this Rams history.
Stone Group, my man.
Not a lot on this date in Rams history. A couple of people passed away. Zeke Bretkowski, he passed away in 2019 at the age of 88. He was a quarterback, second-round pick of the Bears in 1953 out of Georgia. He was the Rams' full-time starter on some really bad Ram teams in 61 and 62. This which led to the Rams getting, Roman Gabriel and Merlin Olsen in one of those drafts, in the 62 draft, I think it was. From 1963 on, though, Bretkowski was part of the Packers dynasty, backing up Bart Starr. I think they used to call him Uncle Zeke. He was just their super sub that would come in for Starr at different times. He played through 68, became a coach, and then came back in 71 and played in 6 games for Dan Devine. But Zeke Bretkowski, I just remember that name because my brother used to have old football books, right? He even had a book, an NFL book, register from 1963, and you'd see Zeke Bretkowski's name in there. And of course, you read him and you look at him all the time, and had one from 68, and he was still in the league and stuff. But Zeke Bretkowski passed away on this day in 2019 at the age of 88. In 2020, former Ram defensive lineman Charles DeJournay passed away at 68. He's one of those rotational guys there in the mid-'80s. He passed away from cancer, unfortunately. But he was interesting because he played for the Southern California Sun of the World Football League, and he was a teammate of Cody Jones at San Jose State. In 74, the Chargers made him a 17th-round pick. He did his 1-year stint in the WFL, and then he joined the Chargers for 5 seasons. And there he was a rotational defensive lineman. And it was kind of hard to play for the Chargers, that defensive line. I don't think anybody remembers, but they're running Gary Big Hands Johnson, Louis Kelcher. I think Fred Dean was on that line. And so they had guys that Leroy Jones. And so, it was hard to become a starter there. But DeJournay was a rotational piece there. He, in 5 seasons, racked up 21 and a half sacks, the best seasons of his career there in San Diego. He joined the Rams in 82 and remained with the club through 86. He was a full-time starter in 85 at nose tackle. So he gave the Rams some really great clicks. Charles DeJournay was 68 when he passed away on this day in 2020. Historically, games on this day, Rams beat New Orleans 29-7 in 1973. On this date in 1979, I remember watching it in our Meeker apartment there. Rams lost to the Bears 27-23. And I remember that game. I think Jeff Rutledge started that game. And Wendell Tyler had like a 60-yard touchdown run. And it was so great. It was like, wow, he's a home run hitter, right? And the Rams still lost that game 27-23. That was one of the low points of the season that year. And I think that was the week after the blanking the Rams delivered to the Seahawks in Seattle in 79. I'll take correction on that. Let's see here. Anything else? On this day in 2012, the Rams tied the 49ers 24-24 in Frisco. If you remember that game, Danny Amendola, Rams fought that game. Looked like the Rams were going to win it, but it ended in a tie, and the Rams won that game. And then on this date in 2018, the Rams beat the Seahawks 36-21. All right, let's see if any more questions rolled in. Let's see here. Let's see. Sorry, Peo time. Thanks for clicking on Peo. I do appreciate it. My only logic is the way the Rams have gone this year. Still got some work to do. On paper, I see a big Rams win. Okay, all right. But I respect the Dolphins have talent, and if they play with the lead. Fair enough. And I think Mr. Burns, or maybe even you, Peo, mentioned it, is that we know sometimes the Rams play down to their opponent, right? Look at the way this Rams team's played the last few weeks, but look how poorly they played against the Raiders. Remember how bad they played against the Raiders when they should have just, knocked them out of the yard, and they didn't. And that's something to say about a young team, right? They play down to their opponent. And so good word of warning there, Peo. I'll take it. Michael Negretti, what's the starting lineup for the offensive line tonight? Well, it looks like obviously Jackson at left tackle, Alaric Jackson, left guard, Steve Avila, center, Jonah Jackson, right guard, Kevin Dotson, and then right tackle. We talked about it a little bit in the show. I've asked people what they thought. It could be either Noteboom or Warren McClendon. Because of the money he's making and starting experience, Noteboom seems like the logical choice. But I think because Warren McClendon's been more present, he's taken more snaps this year. We saw him play right tackle in a competent way. He's not a left tackle. I was leaning towards McClendon. I'm going to be happy with whatever they do. But either way, let's just say note boom starts. You got McClendon, you got Limmer, and you got Justin Dedix. The Rams have depth along that offensive line, right? This is the reason Logan Bruss currently is unemployed. So, yeah, so that's what I see. Tim Powers, 47 points to usher in our 47th president. I'll take it, Mr. Powers, right? I'll take it. Rams score 47. I don't think they're going to lose 48-47. So let's have 47. That's the downward there. Mr. Powers, in fact, I'll tell you what, Mr. Powers, because you're a good dude. I think I know you a little bit. Okay. If McCullough gets his 5th interception, I'm going to send one of my Kistler Law mugs to him. But if the Rams score 47 points, Mr. Powers, I'm going to send you a Kistler Law mug. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. There you go. Or put your coffee in there and drink it. Tim Burns, what do you think is the best other pro football league? USFL, WFL, XFL? Well, I like the USFL. I think the USFL came in with a good model. And I think they came in with a good model, then they spent themselves crazy. I know everyone likes to blame Trump for when he bought the Generals and tried to move. Yeah, I think there's some faux pas there. But also, let's remember, the league approved William J. Oldenburg, the guy that owned the Express. They approved the franchise in Chicago. There were some disastrous owners. The owners in San Antonio were disaster. There was a disaster in Oklahoma. They had a 12-team league in 83. Then they expanded to 18 in 84. And I think they just went a little too far too soon. And then I loved it because they were, Reggie White was signing. Mike Rozier was signing. Steve Young. In fact, the Michigan Panthers LA Express playoff game from 84 is still one of the greatest games I ever saw. And that game was won on Mel Gray, not Mel Gray from the Cardinals, but Mel Gray that was the kick returner for years with the Lions, one of the best kick returners in NFL history. Mel Gray broke off a 25-yard touchdown run to win that game in the Coliseum. He broke his arm in the contest there. So I lean USFL. WFL was fun, but I always lived in dread to hear that, oh man, when Zonka Kick and Warfield went to the Toronto Northmen, which became the Memphis Southmen, when those guys went, I was like, oh man, could that happen? Could the Rams lose players, right? And stuff. But yeah, I was more of a USFL guy. Let's see, what else did we have there? Yeah, XFL. I covered the XFL for a couple of websites and I wrote previews for them. They did a good job, but you know what? They partnered with NBC and then they allowed Bob Costas at NBC to trash their product that they signed to cover. And I don't think that helped that. And then, we had everything else come about after that. So USA Expat expecting McVay's playbook to finally be fully open tonight. I'll take it. But you know what I want with that offensive line and their weak front seven? Pound them. This is my answer to everything. Pound them. Pound them, and then play action and go to Cup, go to Nakua, go deep to Tutu, and just beat them into submission. There we go. Peo time. Those are fun facts. Thanks, Joe. No problem. Thank you, Peo. Question, what are your expectations for the Rams O-line tonight with Steve and JJ back? If they're ready to run, if they're ready to play, I expect them to be bulldozing. If they're out there, I expect them to be the guys we wanted them to be. I think there'll be a couple of rough moments as they get the rust off, but I expect them to plow the road, right? Plow the road. This team carried those guys, right? Limmer and Dedich carried those guys, and now they're going to the bench. And it's like, you know what, dudes? You pick up the rest of the slack. Pick us up and get us to the playoffs and stuff. So, yeah, my attitude, those guys should be wanting some red meat, right? Those guys should be really after, that's what Jackson and Avila need to be about tonight, wanting some blood and giving Stafford a clean pocket. Tim Burns, who is midseason defensive MVP for the Rams? Mr. Burns, I don't care. I guess you're going to say Jared Verse, right? But yeah, I don't care. I don't. Peo time, Canadian Rams fan. I am predicting a follow-up INT for Kitchens tonight. Oh, Mr. This is my third mug. I got a third mug up there. Peo time, I know you got another show, and you probably got sponsors. Kistler Law is my sponsor, but we got a really cool Kistler Law mug here in Rams colors. If Kitchens gets an interception tonight, I'm going to send you a mug. I'm going to send you a mug. You let me know. Willie Bowen, Peo, will you have a podcast for the game tonight? Peo time. Tim, I like the CFL. I liked watching the CFL. You and I got nothing else to do. I do like watching the CFL. There you go. Peo time, Canadian Rams fan. Yeah, Willie, I will be live. Okay, I hope to listen to that, Peo. Willie Bowen, awesome, Peo. Tim Burns, I don't want to see another he hate me story. Okay, that's an XFL reference. Bill, what's the most logical path to the playoffs, wild card or division? Absolutely division right now. Absolutely division. And even that gets harder and harder as long as the Cardinals keep chipping off victories because they've got that one win against the Rams. And until we get to that week, 17 game, Rams don't have a big margin for error. They need to win tonight. They need to win those layup games against New Orleans and the Jets. They need to win those games. And then they got to figure out a way to beat Eagles and the Bills, or at least one of those two teams. Those things are pretty important. Let's see here. Okay, Peo time, sweet deal. Okay, we're on. Willie Bowen, Dieter Brock came from the CFL. Willie, I don't curse on here. And now you've brought up Dieter Brock, right? I mean, there's just some names we don't mention. Dieter Brock, Eddie Brown, those are forbidden. You can't use those ones. Tim Burns, Mrs. Joe T wants all those mugs out of the cupboard. If you could see all the coffee mugs in my house, my wife takes any kind of mug there is, right? We got so many coffee mugs. Bill, are the Cardinals a fraud or for real? Because they're the Cardinals, because they're the Cardinals, I'm going to say fraud. You can't. I think they're all frauds. I just think they are. They're the Cardinals. And they looked better last year. They obviously look better this year. I thought next year was going to be their breakout year, and they've broken out. I personally, when everything's going to heck in a handbasket and the ship is filling with water and there's no lifeboats and the Germans are attacking, Matthew Stafford is going to be there for you. Kyler Murray won't be because he has all that bad body language and that bad attitude. And that's why I don't believe in the Cardinals. I don't. It's going to have to be beaten into my head like it is now, but that's why it's a pain. Let's see here. Peo time. Question: have you met any of the current Ram players? No, I haven't. At least I don't think I have. My time was I'm going to age myself. Late 80s, and I got to go to Rams Park there in Fullerton, and I interviewed Michael Stewart, and I met. I always talk about it. I was there the day that Steve Dills, and Mike Gooman got waived. But I saw the original John Johnson and Charles White and the offensive lineman. And so I got to be there, but I've met Harold Jackson, but current players I haven't really met because I'm not necessarily working, in that media forum right now. My guys that I used to work with at Mid-Valley Sports, they cover the Chargers. And so we founded Mid-Valley Sports together with the idea. This was in the late 90s. We founded it with the idea. We were around my kitchen table. I always talk about it. 2 laptops and dial-up access to the internet. 4 of us. We made plans that someday the Rams are going to come back. This is like in 1999. And just when they came back, and then the year just before we got approved credentials with the Chargers, I quit. I didn't quit. I just decided I wanted to do other things. We're still tight and everything, but those guys cover the Chargers. I just haven't gone back. And I don't think I'm going to go to SoFi unless I'm in the press box. So you guys got to pick up my subscriber list, make me a force here so I can get credentialed, and then I'll go to the Ram games. But right now it's I like watching them from the RamCave. Sorry, long answer there, Mr. Peo. USA X-Pac, number 1 forbidden name, John Shaw. Okay, we'll add that to the list. Tim Burns, Cards lose when it counts. I really think they drop at the end. That's been their history, right? That's been their history with 1 or 2 exceptions. That's been their history. Peo time, question. What's more likely tonight? Rams score 50 or Rams give up 0 sacks and no turnovers? I think Rams give up 0 sacks and no turnovers. I think that's more likely. Does McCaffrey for the 49ers last the season? No, I don't think so. It's a great question there, Bill. I was thinking that yesterday too. I was just looking at him and I'm thinking, he's going to get hurt again. Someone's going to pop him. He's going to get hurt again. And when they lose, everyone's going to say it's Brock Purdy's fault, right? So as long as it keeps them from signing Brock Purdy, great. Brock Purdy's the modern day Fran Tarkenton with a better arm. Payo time question. What was the best way to message you? Would love to collab someday if you're game. No pressure. If you're not into collabing, haha. Man, I'd hang with you. Hey, look at my thing there. Tell me if you look at my description there. I have my email, JT Bank 1964. In fact, I'll tell you, I'll put it right there for anybody. JT Bank 1964 at yahoo.com. I just dropped my email in there, Payo, and I've only been to Canada once. Spent a week in Toronto. I worked the press box at the Sky Dome. That was a lot of fun. Went up in the CN Tower, had some corned beef and stuff. But yeah, I'd love to chat away with you, man. It'd be fun. USA Expat. With my only Rams sideline pass, I asked myself, who do you want to stand next to during the anthem? Answer: Isaac Bruce. Oh, Isaac Bruce. There you go. I did not know you. That's an interesting one. I never thought about that. I spent, like Steve Ramirez, I was in the press box. Not a lot, because the NFL was gone when I was working a lot of stuff, but college and everything else. And but when you do those college games, you get a little bit of like pro or XFL. You get kind of spoiled sitting up there in the box because they bring you your stats and the food is accessible. You don't have to stand in line for the bathroom and you're surrounded by like-minded people. But I never thought about that. Bill, who better, Jim Everett or Vince Ferragamo? Jim Everett. I think Jim Everett was better, but Vince had the moment, right? Vince had the moment. And I don't want to bring up anything bad. But post Phantom sack, nothing was ever the same again. Ever the same. Now, I would have fallen for a Phantom sack when Larry Roberts came in that NFC title game. I'd have collapsed because I wouldn't have wanted to get crushed. And I'm sure the way things were going in that game for Jim Everett, he probably thought he was going to get crushed. And you know what? Maybe if the Rams hadn't been so cheap, if they kept Holohan, if they actually invested in the team, maybe there would have been some better people around Jim Everett. Maybe if they hadn't botched the Eric Dickerson trade with those horrible picks, maybe it would have been a lot easier for Jim Everett to stay around. So there we go. I'll say this about Vince Ferragamo. He threw for 500 yards against the Bears in 82. He still looked like Vince Ferragamo did in 79, but he didn't look like that in 83. He looked much more cautious to me in 83. And then, of course, he had the injury in 84 and he was done. And then he was pretty much done. He went to the Packers and Bills and he was done. You got it, Pale. Tim Burns, dude getting fined for a MAGA hat is weak. Trump 47. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Aren't they making political statements on the back of their helmets? Right. Anyway, we could go off the rails on that. Willie Bowen, Jim Everett. Okay. To Bill, saying he was his favorite quarterback. Tim Burns, Everett was elite over a 4-year period, but got creamed a lot. Yeah. Again, what I'd like to think of with the Rams at that time, well, what if, Jim Everett, not Chris Everett. What I'd like to think is, what if McVay had Eric Dickerson in his offense, right? What if Andy Reid had Eric Dickerson in his offense? Dickerson had pretty good hands. He could catch the ball. And I brought it up before. What could you imagine? Now, we were using Zampese, which was state of the art in the late 80s. But could you imagine, Dickerson in the I formation and then going in motion and flashing to a slot position, right? Lining him up on a linebacker. I think teams would have called a timeout, right? I think they just would have had a heart attack. You line that up with Flipper. You put Flipper, Ellard, and Eric Dickerson right there along the line with Holohan at tight end catching the ball. I don't know. Of course, it better be Everett throwing the ball and not Dieter Brock, right? But yeah, there's a lot of things you look at some of those guys, what they could have done. Now, that's why football is fascinating. Bill, what if Snead had all those picks from the Dickerson trade? Yeah. I'll go back one further. What if Don Klosterman had all those picks from the Dickerson trade? Klosterman was the guy that pulled off all those deals in the 70s that built the Rams and looked like they were going to have them built through the 80s until Carol Rosenblum died at just the right time when his son was written out of the will. Just really curious there. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things to think about. But we're here now, and I know there's St. Louis fans out there that watch us, and I don't want to slam St. Louis and everything, but boy, that was dark. Those were dark years from 90 through 94 until the Rams left. And then, it's a Georgia thing. Anyway, all right. I think we got an hour in. I didn't even think I was going to go an hour. Okay, guys, I hate to leave. I hate to leave because we got a nice audience here. Got to go too. Peo, talk to you soon. Tim Burns, Dickerson, Ellard, Flipper. Feel a lot like Falk, Bryce, Bruce, and Holt. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, there we go. Who was the GM for the Rams Dickerson trade? John Shaw, John Robinson. I'm trying to think there was somebody else involved. It was a good trade. It was just poorly executed with those draft picks. All right, I got to go, guys. It's 2:00 here on the coast. God bless. Take care. Go Rams. Go Rams. And we're going to see you mañana at 5. Take care. God bless.